Just one more! Hello, you hand horn people. The amp we're looking at today is not subtle. The amp we're looking at today isn't gonna be played with a Strat or a Tele. And don't say, yeah, but you could! Shut it! It's called The Darkest Nightmare. What the fuck do you think you're gonna play with that? Do you think you're gonna play some bluesy stuff with The Darkest Nightmare? Do you think you're gonna go and have like, non-active, classic-y kind of, yeah, I'm playing my vintage Les Paul with it? No. It's called The Darkest Nightmare. Look at it. Okay. I have some facts here from Driftwood Amplification from Malik, who was nice enough to write some points for me. This is highly customizable. It's a higher priced amp. I think it starts at, don't even know where it says at, 25 something. So then of course with more options come more responsibilities. I mean more cost. So it has the gain channel of the Purple Nightmare. That's an amp you've seen on probably many YouTube videos. My buddy John Brown's done videos on it. That's a killer amp. And this has the gain channel of it, but it has a lower gain version of that gain channel. Because calling it a 2-channel amp, I'm gonna right away say Driftwood amps, no, it is not a 2-channel amp. You can't sell me on the fact that that's a 2-channel amp. It has one gain knob, and you can lower the gain on it, but it has one EQ, it has one setting of gain, and there's a switch, which is foot switchable, to lower that gain, but that doesn't make it a 2-channel amp. In no way in the world could you be on stage and have like a clean channel and a drive channel, or have a lower gain channel and a higher gain channel. It's the same gain knob, okay? So it is a 1-channel amp. I'm sorry to contradict you here, Malik. It's a 1-channel amp with 2 different gain settings, which are foot switchable. I wouldn't call that a channel. It's not fully featured enough for a 4-channel. But the lower gain mode is thicker, and it's got 1 gain stage less than the high gain. So trying to get that clean, you can, but then you don't have with the same setting a high gain channel, okay? See this as a one-trick pony, but it's a very good trick that it does. One-trick pony when it's set up in one way, that's what I'm saying. It's got a tight switch in front of the gain, which takes a lot of the bass out, and then adds a little bit later, so it just gets tighter. And that's right there, a tighty-whitey switch. Then we've got mode and voice, and they changed the EQ of middle and high. User interface-wise, I'm bitching about that, but look at it. You got mode, which is under the treble, and then voice, which is under the gain. Now, is mode applied to treble and voice to mid? Or is mode applied to mid and voice to treble? You get what I'm saying? Mid and treble, are those 2 switches? I don't know which switch is for what. And he doesn't tell me. Mode and voice change EQ points of middle and high. So we would think that mode is changing middle. But why isn't it under the middle knob? Guys, I know, but user interface is important on these things. There are 2 master volumes for solo, and you can, on the back, determine that the noise gate, which is built in, right there, and there's a little switch, and that determines if it's completely off, completely on, which I have right now, or it's only applied when you're switching to Master 2, which is kind of nice. So on a solo, you might have more noise, and then the noise gate's active on Master 2. It's got a noise gate. I just mentioned that. Sizzle switch with 3 positions. That's kind of like to really add fizzy kind of high end if you wanted that, and we're gonna explore that. It literally sizzles. It's got a built-in IR loader with 20 slots, and it's loaded with IRs from Lasse Lammert. Now, Lasse is an amazing producer, and he knows how to get metal sound. So I'm gonna go and say the IRs are perfectly suited for the player of that amp. It's a cool little interface on the back, right here. XLR out, USB to load IRs, rotary switch to pick your IRs, and then there's a volume for it to adjust it. And on the front, you even have a little clip thing showing you that whether or not you're overloading the IR. It's muted. That's what that shows you. And then that other light shows you that the loop is active or not. That's nice. Now, more bitching. It's got an IR loader, but it doesn't have a load box, meaning you have to have that on a cab. So the whole let's play quietly isn't gonna fly. That's a 100-watt amp, as far as I understand. That doesn't say that anywhere, but it's probably a 100-watt amp. So maybe even more, depending on whatever tubes you put in there. I don't know. So it's going to kill you in the room or the next room or wherever, no matter what. So that means you have to have a load box. So you can get a captor from 2Notes as a cheap kind of, it's safe to run the amp with it, or others. But why isn't that built in? I think it's a big plus that it has the IR loader, which is great. That's what modern amps are supposed to have now. But it's kind of that opens it up to criticism. Why isn't there a built-in load box? Now, the IR loader is powered by Sandrock, and I have the Sandrock, what's it called? I don't even know, the rack thing, it's over there. I could never really test that because the software wasn't installing on Mac Catalina. So if you want to load your IRs, it's a small Ukrainian company, and just make sure that the software, if you want to load your own IRs, which you don't necessarily have to because losses are great, is compatible with what you're running. There is a MIDI option. Do I have that? Doesn't look like I have a MIDI option. But you can save low, high gain, tube screamer, which we'll get to, the loop, master 2, mute, noise gate, IR loader slot, blah, 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 blah. So you can actually change cabs on the fly. It has a built-in tube screamer over here, which is literally just the little green pedal in an amp. I always thought, why don't people do that? Why don't companies do that? Especially when we're talking about a modern high-gain amp where a lot of players use the tube screamer to thin out the low end and push the mids. Now, makes total sense to have that. It's in there. It's foot switchable, or on the back, right there, you can turn that on and off, or foot switch, and the same with the loop, on and off, or foot switch. And of course, I have a foot switch on the table over here, and I can switch the loop, I can switch the tube screamer, I can switch master 2, mute, and of course, channel, or actually what I would call more gain. Customization options are different combinations of power amp tubes. This is loaded with KT88s and 6L6s, and you talk to Malek and you find out what your preferred combination is, or only 6L6s, or only KT, whatever you want. It's all possible. You can pick any Tolex on the market, anything that's freely available, he can put on there. The special thing, obviously, is the super customization option of having this beautiful wood panel. You can have flame, a burl, a quilt, whatever you want, in any color you want. This could even be your logo if you so insisted, which I think, why? Because I mean, he wants to advertise his amp, so I think it should say Driftwood. But he puts your logo on there if you want to. This can even be, this is high gloss right now, but this can be matte, and again, in any color you want. This could also be cloth or Tolex. Obviously, that's all super customizable. These could be mini chicken heads, which I think they are. They could be big chicken heads. They can be any kind of knob you want. And there you go. You can even pick different mixes of preamp tubes. So, that all being said, we're going to get some sounds. First, we're going to go around the built-in IR loader. We're going to go into the Universal Audio aux and use a V30 412, which is what I would use with that amp. Got a little bit more high-end sizzle than my normal Creamback. We're not going to use any traditional guitars. We're going to use modern guitars because come the fuck on. And then we're going to quickly turn that off. I'm just using the aux as a reference. And that's, of course, also my load box because it doesn't have one. So it's always going to be connected to the aux. But then we're going to switch to the sounds we can get from the built-in IR loader. So for now, I'm going to turn that down. I have a standard E-tuning Hydra from Mayonnaise. And, well, it's muted. Let's get it down quite a bit. then there we have sounds. Don't expect stunning Fender cleans, because it literally is a high gain channel that I'm turning down. It's not made for this. This guitar is also not made for this. It's tough to get really cleans out of it, especially with this guitar. In the track that you heard at the beginning, I used an Ibanez AZ, and it was quite a bit easier to get cleans out of it. Of course, with cleans, some effects would be nice. So I'm going to turn on the effects loop, and in the effects loop, I have that tape delay, the Echofix EFX2, and it works beautifully with the levels of that effects loop. So yeah, don't expect this to be your clean platform. It just isn't. In a pinch, you can get cleans out of it. That's with the second gain stage. Okay, yeah. It's not made for that. I'm sorry, Malik, it's a one-channel amp that, hits you in the head. So on that lower gain setting, here we are. Very raw sounds, very direct and very defined. Let's add the tube screamer to that. So for now, it's switched to the second gain. There's more. Let's roll that back and look at the tight switch. The thing is, that's to the left. Is that on or is that off? It would be nice to actually have some kind of indication. The knobs on the back are labeled beautifully. As I said, user interface is important. I don't know if that's on or off. And if I have a couple of amps, I might even learn it and then forget it. And then next time it's like, wait, is it on or off? Friedman makes the same mistake, I think. Labeling is important. I know it clutters up the front plate a little bit, but come on, I don't know. I'm gonna say that's off. So there's more bass in it now. Nice. Obviously, you treat the Troop Screamer like a Troop Screamer. Without the Troop Screamer, let's look at the EQ. We're still in the aux, by the way. Oh, and the gain is rather subtle, isn't it? Isn't that ridiculous? How much more gain is there? Very subtle, that switch, whatever that switch that is. That's the voice switch. Let's look at the treble. I think now it's off, kind of like it more there. Well, while we're at it, let's look at rumble and sharp, which is, of course, power amp. Other companies call it resonance and presence and whatever. That's what that is. One thing we don't need for modern stuff is more bass, if you ask me. That's a lot of boost there. So let's look at sizzle. Don't do flat 9, people. Why? That adds some nice sizzle up there. Slightly fizzly sizzly. And obviously, always depending on your cab. Let's look at let's boost with the Tube Screamer. I mean, now even more gains. Ridiculous gain by now. Let's see what the noise gate can do. And any kind of noise is gone. Okay, I'm going to tell you one thing. The leads you can get with this are absolutely ridiculous. That stupid solo for that song, that one synth line, which we're going to get into in other videos. I played for 2.5 days, had this amp in a similar setting that I have it in now, and just played and played. It was so enjoyable to play leads with this. So we boost the mids a bit, put the loop back on, right there. Sounds like the noise gate is before the effects loop, which is a good idea. I'm in love with the leads you can get from this. We did this, I don't know. That's full gain, I guess, for anyone who wants that. Let's switch to lower notes and see what the internal IRs have to offer. Okay, so the clip LED is fine. I checked that. My input level is fine. And this is an Ormsby Hype 7. Very likely the correct guitar for this beast. It's even purple, even though it's called the Darkest Nightmare. But of course we know it's got the Purple Nightmare in it. So let's play a couple sounds with this and then switch IRs. let's stay right there and switch to the next one. That's all of them. There's some kind of hum, but that might have something to do with my electric-y system here in the house. So my thoughts on the Darkest Nightmare. Well, can I fault it for being a one-channel amp? I don't think I can, because it's called the Darkest Nightmare. It's meant for a specific thing, and it does that specific thing rather well. It's tunable with the tight and the voicing switches, even though the voicing switches don't do, the world. But the power amp control with rumble and sharp and then the sizzle switch does quite a bit. So it is highly tunable. You can pick kind of like your starting gain with quite a bit and then quite a bit more. And then having the built-in tube screamer does exactly what the tube screamer is supposed to do. Kick it, thin it out, cream it up. For me, as a lead amp, if you're playing leads, if you don't even do metal stuff, but you need those singing, beautiful, creamy singing leads, that's the shit. So I'm not going to deduct points, even though I don't give points, for it being a one-channel amp. I might deduct points for them claiming it's a two-channel amp. Having a gain channel and then a second gain channel that's switchable, pretty much two different levels of starting gain, but having the same gain knob, for me, is not having a second channel. If it was a second gain knob that I can set somewhere else, I'm okay with that. Does it have to have a clean channel? Well, live, you might need that here or there. Realistically, 99% of the time when you're playing this, in the style that you're playing this kind of amp in, you don't need a clean channel. Or that fakey kind of, let's dial it down clean is fine. However, you don't have a second gain knob to get there. Tube Screamer, switchable, and built-in is perfect. Even Perfect Array, which I didn't even mention, if you look on the back, freaking brilliantly done. Let me pull this. There's a 9-volt out and a tuner out. So you can actually put a tuner on top of here, power it, and feed it. Now, why does it make a lot of sense? Well, because the kind of player that plays this type of amp, with that type of guitar that I just played, realistically doesn't really have a pedal board. Are you gonna push this thing into other kinds of gains with a pedal? Probably not. What kind of pedal would a metal player have? A Tube Screamer. Or some kind of Fortin something, whatever. So this has it already built in. So I don't think you need a pedal board. What you do need is maybe a delay or some sort of thing for leads and stuff like I just demoed. And it's beautiful how the effect loop actually works perfectly with the level of that right there, that tape delay behind me. As I said, for leads, it's insane. For modern rhythms, it's very dry, very rough, very defined. It's in the same league as the Rev Purple channel, like a 100p. Whereas this is still a little bit, the 100p kind of thins out a lot in the low end. This is still fatter. This is still richer, which doesn't mean that's good. It can be, but it can also not be. So this is still a little bit more saturated, let's put it that way. You might look for that, you might not look for that. If you don't look for that, switch tight, take rumble down. As I said, it is highly tunable in that regard. That rawness and that super quick attack is, of course, on your side. Features. Switchable effects loop with the included foot switch, great. MIDI capability, which this doesn't have, but you can get that as an add-on, great. I think the supplied IRs from Lasse Lammert are kind of everything you need for the metal. And you have to find the one that you like. Some of them much less bass, but more mids. Some more pronounced high end. You can clearly hear that the IR is everything when it comes to tone, when it comes to sound. What cab you use determines, I would say, 70% of your frequency response. Easily 70%. It's the freaking cab. So it comes with IRs from a great guy who knows what you need for metal, even though you might say, oh, it's a little bit thin. Look, if Lasse uses it in the production, that's all I need. These are production-ready IRs. I'm gonna have to, oh, this is leather. That's cool. The corners are leather. I'm gonna have to bitch about it doesn't have a load box. That's kind of like, why? Isn't that just a resistor and some stuff? I mean, technically that's not a big deal to add. It makes the IR loader less usable because if you don't spend extra money on a load box, you can't play this at home and record with it. If you want a non-cab operation, you have to invest extra money. So I think they should kind of have that included. That's a bummer, if you ask me. So yeah, I'm going to say feature-wise, some great stuff in there. IR loader, tube screamer, all that stuff. When we're talking about what are the alternatives on the market, and in that price range, we have to talk about it. I don't know how much the Mesa Badlander is, but it's under $3,000, I think, in Germany now. So that is obviously a high gainy amp, 2 channels IR loader. There is the Ref 100P Mark III, which has a Captor X built in. It has 2 XLR outs that can be operated cablessly, a full Captor X built in, and that clocks in a little bit more than this. I don't know what this custom option is at $3,000. So these are all flavors of a similar thing. However, I think you kind of have to find them, play them, and compare. This is all handmade in Germany by a very small team, or maybe just one guy, I don't know. Whereas the Ref stuff is made all in Canada by a very small team. It's all high-end stuff, and I think you have to get them somehow in front of you, or drive to that store, and really play them. This video can give you a taste, but if it's the question of like, which one are you going to get? Well, it's probably a good idea to actually play the damn thing. I think it's a great amp. It's a great modern amp with modern features. I wish it pushed the modern features a tiny bit further. Like, give it a damn load box, okay? And give me a second gain knob. But if that doesn't deter you, check out the Driftwood Darkest Nightmare, available at your favorite dealer somewhere, and of course, directly at Driftwood Amplifier. I am paid for this video. I have to disclose that. That's the law. And make of that what you will. And thanks, Leslie, for switching. Thanks, Malik, for sending this over. And animals at the end.